Hello, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to the latest episode of the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate, where today we're going to be talking about how the Pittsburgh Steelers have resumed their search for a new GM. So, obviously, since Kevin Colbert announced that he was going to retire, the Steelers have gone full out now and started to go into the second interview stage after talking to so many previous candidates. I think it was 16 candidates talked to in the first round. Well, now we seem to have slimmed down that list, and the Steelers seem to have settled on a short list of 4, possibly 6 candidates. But obviously, they've got a very, very hard act to follow. The act, obviously, is of Kevin Colbert. Kevin Colbert, who, in my opinion, is a future Hall of Fame general manager. He has done an amazing job for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has won 2 Super Bowls. Let's have a quick look at his record. Here is his record here. So 111, 64, and 2 in the regular season. He's won 2 Super Bowls, 3 AFC championships, and 10 AFC North titles in his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a pretty phenomenal record, considering obviously he's been to 3 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. As he broke down in his news conference the other day when he said, when we came here, there was 4 trophies in the room. Now there's 6 trophies in the room. He's added to that to make us, along with New England Patriots, the most successful franchise in NFL history. But not only that, obviously, Colbert has had some pretty amazing picks. These are just some of his picks. TJ Watt, obviously, Troy Polamalu, San Antonio Holmes, Brett Kiesel, who we forget was a very late round, 6th or 7th round pick. Antonio Brown, a 6th round pick. Ben Roethlisberger, obviously, 1st round pick. Marquise Pouncey, I should say. Sorry, spelling mistake there. Cam Hayward, Mike Wallace, David DeCastro, Kelvin Beachum was a 7th round pick. Ryan Shazier, Juju, Najee Harris. The list goes on and on. So whoever's going to come in is going to have a very, very hard act to follow. To follow Kevin Colbert, who for 22 years has been the most amazing general manager the Pittsburgh Steelers have had. I think it's worth noting that in the same time as the Pittsburgh Steelers have had Kevin Colbert, there has been a turnover in GMs across the league. If we take, for example, franchises that struggle, in the same time that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had just Kevin Colbert, the Giants have had 4 GMs, the Jets have had 6 GMs. The Browns have had 10 GMs, and the Detroit Lions have had 7 GMs. How incredible is that? And that just shows, I think, why those franchises are in the difficulties they've had recently, and they've had this losing season after losing season after losing season, in comparison to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who've had winning season after winning season after winning season. So, like I said, there were 16 initial interviews for the job of the general manager. There is obviously now, they have slimmed that down. They've slimmed down the numbers of candidates. The names that have been mentioned are Louis Riddick, Doug Whaley, John Spytek, and Ryan Cowden. These are the names that have been talked about and linked. Now, obviously, there's not much talk at the moment about Brandon Hunt and Omar Khan, but you know what? There doesn't really need to be. As with the Kenny Pickett pick in the draft at pick 20 in that first round, the Steelers know. They know Brandon Hunt. They know Omar Khan. They know what they do. They know what they bring to the party. They know how they work. They don't need to do any more in-depth research on these two guys. They need to look at external candidates to give them something to benchmark them by, to compare them by, to think about, is it right that we appoint Brandon Hunt, or they appoint Omar Khan, or is it that they need to now go external and bring in some new eyes, some fresh blood into that GM's chair for 22 years of the same man. Now, obviously, Brandon Hunt has done a fantastic job at assisting Kevin Colbert. There's a good chance, obviously, that if he isn't given the GM's job, that he could well leave. Let's have a quick look at those candidates, shall we? Here we are. So I've included Omar Khan and Brandon Hunt. So we've got Brandon Hunt, then Omar Khan and Doug Whaley. In addition to that, obviously, there is Louis Riddick, the ESPN analyst, John Spytek, and Ryan Cowden. These are the guys, obviously, that are going to, who have been interviewed, having their second interviews with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a major decision, replacing this Hall of Fame, potential Hall of Fame guy in Kevin Colbert. This could be a real make or break decision for this Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a franchise that like to be consistent. They like to have one person in place for a long time. They like to have that certainty of knowing who their main man is. As they have with coaches, there are only 3 coaches in Three coaches in the franchise history since 1969, and very similar with the GM's job. Again, a limit. I think it's three GMs again since 1969. This is obviously a very limited number of GMs. So this is a massive decision. And when you make a decision of replacing your GM, it's not just like with the player. You bring in a free agent player or a rookie, and after a year, 2 years, if they're not working out, you cut them, you get rid of them, and you bring in somebody new. But it doesn't work the same with the GM because, you're bringing in someone who's going to come in with a whole new set of ideas about who to draft, who to select in free agency. And it may be the players that are there on the franchise, the players the previous GM, along with the coaches, selected. It may be the GM coming in has a different strategy or theory to the actual coach that's in place. This is a huge decision. You know, Steelers obviously try to do their due diligence on these candidates to find the best possible candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, Appointing a GM can be a real make or break for a franchise. They get it right, they go on to success, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get it wrong, they have losing season after losing season, like the Browns, like the Jets, like the Lions, and the Giants have had just recently. You know, all the best GMs at this moment in time are in place. They're appointed or retired. And it's a very difficult decision. You start looking at promise or with people within your own organization. And that's why I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have looked, obviously, first of all, at Brandon Hunt and Omar Khan, and are now looking outside. But the question is, what do we know about these candidates? Obviously, we know a lot about Brandon Hunt and Omar Khan from what they've done with the Steelers. Omar Khan is your numbers guy. He's the guy who manages to make the books balance and manages to help the Steelers bring in players by moving money around, restructuring contracts. He's not really a scouting guy. Brandon Hunt is more the scouting guy, whereas, but not really a numbers guy. Louis Riddick, who is a lot of fans' choices to be the next general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, is an ex-player and ex-executive. He started off as a player. He was 1 year on the 49ers practice squad before he went to play for Sacramento Surge, obviously not an NFL team, then the Atlanta Falcons, then the Cleveland Browns, then back to the Falcons, the Raiders, before finishing at the Orlando Rage. But as an executive, what has he done? Well, he was with the Washington Redskins, as they were called then. He was a pro scout. Then he was the director of pro personnel for the Washington Redskins. After that, he went to the Eagles, where he was pro scout, assistant director of pro personnel, and director of pro personnel. So he's got good front office experience. Never been a GM, but has very good front office experience. He's someone as well, I think, who being an ex-player brings that knowledge of what it's like on the pitch, about what makes a good player, because he's played alongside some of these guys. He knows who they are. He was certainly part of that Philadelphia Eagles who went for that sort of approach of drafting a lot of talented players all in one go to see if they could really compete. Doug Whaley is someone who has previously worked with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He spent 10 years with the Steelers. He was pro personnel coordinator before he went on to work for the Buffalo Bills, where he was assistant GM and director of pro personnel before he became the actual GM, although apparently he did not do a particularly great job as the general manager of the Buffalo Bills. Third person that has been mentioned is a guy called John Spytek. John Spytek is the director of player personnel at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's done that job for 6 seasons and has been, responsible for helping to put together that. He was very much largely responsible, helping to put together that Tampa Bay roster that won them their second Super Bowl, working obviously in conjunction with Tom Brady, not Bruce Arians. Ryan Cowden is someone who comes from the Tennessee Titans. He has done a number of jobs with the Titans. He was the director of player personnel, first of all, before becoming the VP of player personnel. He is responsible for overseeing all the scouting that goes on, but not just the scouting of colleges, but also the scouting in the NFL. He is part of the draft preparation, making of the draft board, and the draft picks team of the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, he has been on the with the Titans, who have last year were number 1 seed in the AFC. So obviously done a good job at selecting and bringing in players for the Tennessee Titans. So they're the candidates, 6 possible. So we look to be down to now 6 candidates in this second interview process. I think obviously the candidates will be being asked lots of questions. If this scenario came up, what would you do? If this happened, what would you do next? What would you do with this player? How would you restructure this player's contract? Lots of scenarios so the Steelers can get a feel of what these guys could do as the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers. My personal preference would be to appoint Brandon Hunt. I think it's consistency. I think it would be bringing in someone who's obviously worked and learnt from Kevin Colbert, but still bringing in that fresh set of eyes with a fresh set of new ideas. I would move heaven and earth to keep Omar Khan, obviously, because his numbers experience is absolutely vital, and maybe even look for a job for Louis Riddick within the office. Maybe he could take Brandon Hunt's job and work behind Brandon Hunt as an assistant GM, maybe, or something like that, alongside Omar Khan. That could be a very interesting prospect for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's worth noting that they've obviously restarted their GM search. Like I said, that Kevin Colbert is retiring, kind of, but he does say that he wants to stay with the franchise as long as he was not a hindrance and was a help. It'll be really fascinating to find out who the next Steelers GM will be, because this is a pretty momentous offseason, isn't it? You know, from the four pillars of a franchise, you've got the owner, the head coach, the GM, and the quarterback. We've had to take away two of those pillars this season. Going into this new season, Ben Roethlisberger retiring, obviously, and Kevin Colbert retiring. So both Ben Roethlisberger and Kevin Colbert have had to be replaced. So it's a major decision. I'm going to be looking out, obviously, and look out for breaking news here on the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate should the Steelers make any appointments and appoint a new general manager. Well, thanks for listening, guys. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate, hit that subscribe button. Drop me a comment below. Who do you think should be our next general manager? And would you like to see Brandon Hunt and Omar Khan stay as part of the Pittsburgh Steelers front office, even if they don't become the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers? So thanks for listening, guys. And let's finish this as we always finish it with, here we go, Steelers. Come on.